I had a buyer freeze when she heard PMI. Then we ran the numbers. The monthly PMI was less than the rent increase that she had been hit with. So she bought an Ocala well under 20% down. That is the power of understanding the full picture. Today I will show you the reality. Lenders look at the whole financial snapshot, not just a single number. We'll contrast FHA and low down conventional options. Explain why pre-approval matters in Gainesville, near UF and the hospitals, and in fast moving Ocala neighborhoods. And weigh PMI now against the risk of higher prices later. Let's be real. One belief keeps many buyers stuck. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the 20% rule and why it isn't even a rule at all. Have you heard the rumor that you have to have 20% down or you can't buy a house? Let's be real. That idea quietly sidelines many buyers. It keeps you renting longer, paying other people's mortgages, all while the market moves on. On a $350,000 home in the Gainesville-Ocala area, that is $70,000 in cash before you even start talking about the closing cost. Most first-time home buyers don't have that sitting around in a savings account, and waiting years to hit that number could cost more than getting in now with a smart loan. The common script sounds familiar. Save, save, save. But lenders don't approve based on your savings alone. They look at your full profile: debt to income ratio, credit history, stable income, reserves after closing. If those line up, you can qualify without chasing a 20% target. The down payment helps, sure, but it's not the only lever. Think of the 20% like a gold standard at a car dealership. You get a few perks. You don't need the gold package to get the keys to the car and drive home. Many buyers use the standard package and start driving now. The gold adds comfort, but the standard gets you where you need to go. Here's what the standard actually looks like. FHA loans allow 3.5% down. Conventional loans can go to 3% down to first-time home buyers who qualify. VA loans for eligible buyers often require 0% down. Those are well-established programs used every day. They're designed for buyers who have the income and the credit to support a monthly payment, but they don't have a huge pile of cash, which is like most of us. And the decision hinges on your monthly payment, not your down payment. Lenders stress test the total bill: principal, interest, property taxes, insurance, and any HOA or condo fees. That's the real number that you are going to live with every single month. And in Florida, taxes and insurance matter. Your down payment doesn't change your wind or your flood insurance requirements or your HOA dues. Your rate, loan type, and property choice do. Now, I hear this all the time. Won't PMI wreck my payment? Here's the kicker. PMI is a tool, it's not a penalty. On conventional loans, it can drop off once you reach about 20% equity in your home. It's tied to an early phase of homeownership, not forever. And for a strong buyer, it can run about $10 a week, not hundreds of dollars a week. We'll break down exact ranges later. So what's the real trade-off between 20% down and 5% down in today's real estate market? The difference in monthly payments often narrows once you factor in current rates, taxes, and insurance. In some Gainesville and Ocala neighborhoods, the gap can feel smaller than you think, especially when you include the rent that you would otherwise keep paying when you try to save more. You don't need 20% down to enter the homeownership market. You need the right loan fit for your current situation and a payment you can live with. That's what gets you from renter to homeowner faster without guessing. All right, keep that in mind because these three letters, PMI, they're up next. Let's really break down what it costs, what it covers, and how long it's going to stick around. What if the scary three letters PMI are cheaper than waiting 6 months while your rent climbs? Let's be real. Most often when your leases renew, the rent is increasing. If you're holding out for a bigger down payment, you could spend more on rent increases than you would on a temporary PMI line item that gets you into your home now. PMI is simple. It's insurance for the lender when you put down less than 20% on a mortgage loan. As the buyer, you pay it so the lender can take on a bit more risk. In return, you put less cash down and start owning sooner. Now, PMI does not protect you in the way that homeowners insurance does. It protects the lender in case you, the buyer, defaults on the loan. That's the trade. I hear the pushback all the time. PMI is throwing money away. But here's the kicker. It's the fee that opens the door to homeownership when you don't want to drain your savings. And it scales to you. A better credit score and a little bit more down can drop the cost. Think of it like paying the toll road to skip the traffic. You reach the destination sooner and you stop paying when you exit. There are two main flavors for PMI. Borrower paid PMI shows up as a monthly line line item in your mortgage payment. Lender paid PMI is built into your interest rate instead of a monthly fee. Which is better? Well, it depends on your credit, your timeline in your home, and how fast you plan to get to that 20% equity in your house. Monthly PMI is flexible. On a conventional loan, you can cancel it later. Lender paid makes sense if you want the cleanest monthly line items and you expect to keep the loan a long time. On cost, ranges depend on your credit score, down payment, and loan to value. With strong credit and 5% down, PMI on a $350,000 home often lands you in like the tens per week versus the hundreds per month. That means it feels more like a streaming bundle than a second car payment. The exact number comes from the lender's rate card, but the pattern is consistent. The better the credit, the lower the PMI. Now, a quick contrast with FHA. FHA doesn't use PMI. It uses mortgage insurance premium, an upfront charge that's rolled into the loan plus a monthly amount. It usually lasts for a set period, which is often the life of the loan. Now, there's always the possibility that you might want to refinance in the future, or you want to put more money down on your FHA loan so that you don't have the PMI. Conventional PMI, by comparison, can be canceled once you have 20% equity in your home and is automatically removed when you have 22% equity in your home. In a conventional loan, PMI can drop off in 3 different ways. 1, you have 20% equity in your home. 2, you add small extra payments to your principal to speed that up. 3, if your home value moves, you can order and pay for a new appraisal documenting the lower loan to value and remove PMI earlier. Clear path, clear timeline. How does this stack up against the rents? In Alachua and Marion County, year-over-year rent growth means wait and save. This plan often includes higher rents plus deposits and moving cost. PMI is predictable, rent increases are not. I would know. I also work in property management and I see the craziness all the time. Homeownership allows you to bring your principal down while potentially building equity while you're living your best life. All right, let's put the price of waiting versus the cost of PMI on the table and keep it practical. Could waiting 6 months to save more for the down payment erase your advantage and then some? We're going to break down both paths using a $350,000 home. Buy now with 5% down and PMI, or wait 6 months to grow the down payment. Same buyer profile, same house, different clocks. First path. Today's purchase at 5% down is $17,500 plus closing costs. We're using a conventional loan, so PMI is going to live on the loan for a while before it leaves. You start paying down principal on month 1. You lock a price, you lock a tax assessment based on that price. Your payments include principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and maybe an HOA. Second path, you wait to save more for the down payment. Meanwhile, the market is going to keep moving. Prices are going to adjust. Mortgage rates are absolutely going to shift. Insurance and HOA budgets are reviewed annually. Inventory probably is going to tighten in the school zone that you were looking for, and that is going to limit your leverage on the price. If the market moves up while you wait, your target home will end up costing more. If rates change, your principal and interest payments change, even if you are putting more money down. The larger down payment can partially be offset by those shifts. You'll feel it every month. Closing costs don't care much about your down payment target. In Florida, they often run a percentage of price for lender fees, title, prepaids, and escrow, but costs can vary by lender, property type, and taxes. Waiting doesn't usually shrink these costs. If the prices for the home rise while you're waiting, some prepaids and escrow costs can rise too. Insurance and property taxes, they sit in their own lane. Saving more money for the down payment does not change the rules for insurance. The requirements for the roof, the HVAC, the electrical, and the plumbing, they're going to remain the same. Property taxes are driven by the purchase price and the millage rate, then cap if you claim a homestead exemption. Let's talk bottom line. The cost of PMI on a solid credit, 5% down conventional loan is defined and temporary. The price of waiting includes variables that you don't control. Price shifts, rate changes, insurance updates, HOA budgets, and rental costs while you're sitting on the sidelines. So how do you position yourself with real leverage when you write an offer? That is having a pre-approval. What if the strongest lever you have isn't cash, it's clarity? Let's talk about the difference between a pre-qualification letter and a full pre-approval, because they are not the same thing, and savvy sellers, they know the difference. Pre-qualification is a conversation you have with the lender. You give them verbal information that is not yet verified, and based on that, they determine what you could qualify for. A full pre-approval is where you fill out an application, it goes to the underwriting department, and they look through absolutely everything. You're turning over your financial documents, your credit card statements. You're probably feeling like you're going to turn over your firstborn, because it really does feel like that. The pre-qualification is going to get you an idea or a range of what you could qualify for, but it's probably not going to be accurate because it's not going to take in everything into account. But a pre-approval, you're going to know exactly what you can qualify for and what your payments are going to be, so you can feel confident when you're shopping. Here's where buyers get tripped up. They shop first, they fall in love with the home, and then they scramble for the paperwork. Meanwhile, a buyer who has already been pre-approved walks into the home, is able to write an offer, show their pre-approval letter, and the seller accepts their offer. I see this happen in Gainesville's hotspots close to the University of Florida and the hospital. Speed matters. Sure, there are many homes that you see out there that have been listed forever, but good homes, they get snatched up really fast. A strong pre-approval includes real documents. I get it. Getting a pre-approval letter is a lot of work because it includes real documents. Pay stubs, W-2s, or 1099s, bank statements, and the lender is going to pull your credit. Then they run it through an automated underwriting to see what the system is going to approve you for today. Out of that, you're going to get a realistic maximum payment, not just a top line purchase price. And then when you see the monthly payment, you're not comfortable. This is going to protect you from finding homes that look cute online, but will crush your budget once you take into account taxes, insurance, HOA, all into the mix. Why does this change your buying position and power? Sellers and buyers know that a buyer who is pre-approved is more likely to be able to close on the purchase of that home. Your offer doesn't just look better, it feels safer. You can also lock your interest rate when it makes sense, which shields you if interest rates change while you're shopping. Most rate locks hold for a defined period of time, sometimes between 90 to 120 days. This gives you time to shop without having to worry that a bump in rates is going to blow up your payment. And you get to shop smarter. You stop looking at homes that are going to require a miracle for you to get them, and you can focus on homes that you will actually be able to get under contract. But let me be clear, a pre-approval is not a guarantee. The bank appraisal still has to support the purchase price. Title on the home has to be clean. Homeowners insurance must be available at a reasonable price because there are some crazy prices out there. So if you're in Florida, you are absolutely going to want to make sure that you pay attention to the age of the roof, the HVAC, the electric, and the plumbing. Here's a quick example for you. With the current state of market that we are in right now, where sellers are nervous about being able to sell their homes, I'm going to give you a real scenario that I am seeing happen quite often. And I literally went through this just this week. We have buyer A. They were putting 5% down on their loan. They had a pre-approval ready and they were ready to close in 30 days. Then we have buyer B. They were also a conventional loan and they were willing to put 20% down. Now they did not have a pre-approval letter, they only had a pre-qualification letter. When I called the lender to vet the buyer, they said they seem like they're really strong, but it is taking them so long to get the documents to them. That was a red flag for the seller. They weren't sure that buyer B with the larger down payment was serious enough to actually want to close on their home because they hadn't even taken the time to get the pre-approval letter. So the seller picked the buyer A for the purchase. At the end of the day, the seller was still going to net the same amount of money whether the buyer brought 5% down or 20% down. What was really important to the seller was that the buyer was prepared through a pre-approval letter to be able to purchase their house. Now, which loan do you think is going to be right for you? FHA, VA, or conventional? If all loans will get you into your home, which one is going to have the fewest challenges? An FHA loan is going to get you in with 3.5% down and be more forgiving on your credit score. A VA loan is going to offer 0% down, but it's only available to eligible service members and veterans. Conventional is going to give many first-time home buyers a path of 3% to 5% down. And the better your credit score, the lower your monthly payments are going to be. So you have 3 different loan types to get you to home ownership. Here's the kicker. The best loan is going to be the one that works with your credit score, your debts, your reserves, the type of home you want, the HOA rules, and how long you plan to stay in the home. If a condo association or an HOA have high dues, that is going to change your debt to income ratio, and that can actually impact getting approved for a loan. So you start with your payment target and you work backwards. FHA first. FHA tolerates a lower credit score and a higher debt to income ratio. You put as little as 3.5% down, you pay an upfront mortgage insurance premium plus a monthly premium. And don't forget, That will stay for the life of the loan. FHA shines for so many buyers, especially if you are rebuilding your credit or you need more forgiving debt to income ratios. I will tell you, I was able to get into homeownership by getting my first loan as an FHA. I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't have a lot of credit, but I did have a lot of debt. An FHA loan got me into homeownership. I still own that house today and now I rent it out. All right, VA loan is next. They're great because you don't have to put any money down and you have no PMI. Instead, most loans include a one-time funding fee that you can finance. Eligibility for the loan ties to your military service. Now, the conventional loan is going to round this out. You can have a down payment as low as 3% for first-time home buyers. Once you have 20% equity in your home, you can cancel the PMI, which until that point is monthly. If you have good credit, it's going to lower your PMI cost and your interest rate. And if you're able to make extra principal payments, you'll be able to remove your PMI faster without having to refinance. All right, let's talk about what happens after you close on your home and how the numbers are going to start working for you. What if homeownership with less cash down starts building equity faster than your savings account? Let's be real. Rent builds nothing for you. Equity grows two ways. Every payment is going to bring down your principal, and the property can appreciate over time. Principal reduction follows your amortization schedule. It is built into the payment. Appreciation is variable and market driven. That's the part that people overlook when they fixate on PMI. Fear says wait to avoid buying so you can avoid PMI. The math says buying sooner gives you more months of bringing your principal down and locks the price before your tax base resets to a higher number. So let's look at a 24-month snapshot on that $350,000 home. Remember, we said that buyer A is putting 5% down while buyer B is putting 20% down on the same house, but we have different timelines. Buyer A starts paying down their principal immediately. On a standard 30-year fixed mortgage, the early payments include some principal from day one, and that balance drops each month. If the market adds any appreciation during that time, great, it's an additive. And yes, PMI shows up, but it's temporary. Meanwhile, you homestead earlier, which anchors your property tax base and can limit jumps later underneath Florida laws. Buyer B waits and keeps renting. Paying rent for somebody else does not reduce your future loan balance or build equity for you. If prices or rates shift while you're waiting, the larger down payment that you saved for could end up fighting a moving target, and you lose 24 months of scheduled payment reduction that buyer A captured simply by owning and making payments. What if prices flatten? You still move forward by paying down the principal, and you have payment stability. Equity builds primarily from the balance dropping. If rates happen to fall, then refinancing can cut the payment or shorten your term. Once you own, you have more control. If you have the ability and you want to, you can apply small payments to the principal over time. If home values in your area increase, you can request a new appraisal, which you'll have to pay for, and request that PMI be removed when you have 80% loan to value. Here's the kicker. Having less money to put down doesn't stall wealth building. It actually activates it. If I follow the advice of everybody that said I had to save until I had 20% down, I'd probably still be renting instead of owning the number of homes that we own. I'm not saying that to brag. I want you to know that homeownership is available to many people who think it's not. Here's the bottom line. 20% down is optional. The right loan, a real pre-approval, and a clear plan beats waiting any day. You need a payment that works and fits your lifestyle. PMI is just a tool. While it stays with the loan on an FHA, you can get rid of it on a conventional loan. In many cases, that PMI payment is less each month than the rent increases that you are going to have paying off somebody else's mortgage. If you are wanting to buy a home and you're thinking, like, where do I start? Click on the link below and sign up for my free class. I'm going to walk you through all the steps so that you can get into homeownership too. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.